Are you bored of endgame mapping? Pathing to 3 overlapping towers and getting 200 rarity on gear to farm like Fubgun? Well, I do have news for you. You may still have to path the towers, use a bunch of quant tablets, but this is probably more interesting. The goal of this strategy that I'm going to talk about is going to be farming I level 82 bases. And I spent the past 2 days fine-tuning the strategy, and you can be expected to make to the north of 3 divines per map, and with everything included, potentially like 5 divs per map. And in some of the maps, up to 7 divs, 8 divs when you drop multiple good bases. There's some RNG to it. And this is not per hour, this is per map. And pretty much you'll be preparing to do those maps to get those shoes. So think of it as you're going to be pathing there, and on your journey to that map and the setup, you will probably be making 3 to 4 divs an hour, just on average, doing Abyss, doing breaches, and doing maps with already a bit of quant. You can expect to make around that amount of money. And then when you get set up and you do these maps to drop the bases, you get a huge lump sum, a huge boost of currency of 5 divines on average per map, potentially. So here are some of the bases that you can stand to make. Let me just show you really quickly. These are some of the bases. First, I'm going to show you an example, which is Slip Strike Vest. I82 base, 38 exalts, 37 exalts. And then we have the Gemini bow base, and you can see where I'm getting at. Like, these are the bases that are used for the most popular builds of the league, and all of these bases have quite a big price tag to them, and this is just a white item dropping in an I82 map, giving you this amount of currency, and this is just one item. And we'll be dropping tons and tons of different bases worth these tens of exalts in these maps. The reason why these I82 bases are worth so much money is because of crafting in this league. It is extremely powerful. Things like +2 arrows on bows, get it behind I82 bow bases, things like 35 MS on boots, T1 deflection on chests, and these are just some examples of why people are buying these items for this much. On off chance also, when farming the T16 maps, you can also stand to gain things like level 20 skill gems, level 20 spirit gems, which you otherwise wouldn't get when you're not farming T16 maps. And all of these are worth a ton of money. So what is the core of the strategy? We're going to be finding areas where we enter a map. We are going to be entering a map in an I level 82 zone. So that is where we're going to be looking for maps like these, like Backwash that you see over here, like Slick that you see over here. These are +1 monster level area that you can see hovered on the implicit of corrupted zones. On top of that, within cleansed zones, you can also find these implicits. And on average, from what I've seen, you can expect to find within a corrupted zone, you can expect to see somewhere between 1 to 2 of these maps with a +1 monster level of area. These are not very common. You can see that we have like over 10 corrupted zones, and we have 2 of them. This is on the upside, more likely a good probability that we have over here. And on top of that, once you have done the +1 levels in the corrupted zone, you have the ability to refresh this zone by making it cleansed by doing the corrupted zone. So you would have done the quest line, you would know of this mechanic, and when you do after you do the +1 zones in this area, you clear the corruption and it becomes a cleansed zone. For all the corrupted maps that are not completed yet, they will refresh and they'll become cleansed, which will look like this over here. You can see the cleansed, and then they will have another chance to roll +1 map modifiers after you do that. So that is the core of the strategy. You're going to be pathing to areas with at least 1 tower. You're going to be finding zones with +1 monster level area, and then after you've done them, you will clear the corruption, and then you have cleansed zones, and then you'll look again for +1s and run those. So that is the core of the strategy. And as I mentioned earlier, you need a minimum of 1 tower, because that brings us to the next part of it, and that's going to be what tablet do you run. So after you have done the tower in the area, the most important thing that you need to do is to be able to make sure that the maps that you're running are guaranteed to be +1 monster level through the use of irradiated tablets. So it's going to be tablets like these, the precursor tablets, and the modifiers that's the most important for this strategy is going to be quantity of items found, and you want to have 0% rarity on your gear. You're gonna have 0% rarity on the tablets, and you're gonna have 0% rarity on your maps that you're gonna run. Okay, and that is because we want to find white bases in the maps, and we want to find as many of these bases as possible. For your breach tablets, of course, the best in slot is going to be things like breaches in your map spawn an additional rare monster. It's going to spawn with additional breaches. These are just some examples of good modifiers to pair with it, but honestly, those are not massively impactful, and you may have to pay a huge premium because you'll be competing with other strategies out there. But that you want to be aiming for quant of items on all your tablets, and let me just show you how I just search for them. So you can open the marketplace in game. You can search for quantity of items found in your map. Search for things like 5, for example, and then this costs 5 exalts, and then you can just go buy that really quickly. And because so you can just buy that. The instant buyout function is actually powerful. You can buy all of these tablets really quickly. So as I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that all your maps in your area are irradiated. There's going to be certain instances where you may have 2 towers in your area, and then your first tablet will be juicing them. Your first tower, you'll use like 2 irradiated tablets and 1 breach. So you can see here that we have managed to irradiate this map, and we hit it on this map as well, so lucky us. But you do want to make sure that they are 100% irradiated. That's why I use 2 irradiated tablets. But if you have a second tower in your area, you can use, in this case, now that you can see the +1 areas are irradiated, you can use up to 3 breach tablets on the other one to make sure that your breaches in your zone are a lot more juiced up because they are already irradiated, so that's useless. So that is how you can use your tablets on the towers in your area. And as I mentioned, you just need a minimum of 1 tower, and then you can do the strategy. Because what I've done previously is I've pathed to many different areas and try to find the perfect 3 tower. You put in 9 tablets, they get super juiced, but that's extremely rare because you also need to find a +1 area. And I found that I spend a lot of time trying to do that. So minimum, just need 1 tower, irradiate, and you're good to go. In terms of maps that we want to run, and that brings us to the next point, we're going to be running T16 maps, and that's the core of the strategy. We are going to be dropping i82 bases, and how that maths up, for example, is going to be, we're going to be running a baseline T16 map, which will be I level 80. We are running it on an irradiate map, level 81. And then we are doing on the implicit +1 monster level area, it's going to be 82 zone, which means that a white monster, a chest, a pot, barrel is going to drop an 82 base minimum in that map. Magic monsters drop 1 tier higher, rares drop 2 tiers higher, and pretty much every single item that will drop in that map will be 82 base. And that leads to our core of our strategy, which is dropping those 82 bases, and that's how we get those. Lastly, for the character, that I'm going to talk about is I'm running an interesting setup, and that is going to be dropping more white bases, and that's going to be a negative rarity strategy. This is completely unnecessary. This is just a minor optimization that I have. So this is completely opposite to what people are doing when they're blasting, multiple overlapping towers with breaches, stacking rarity. We are doing the complete opposite, and that's why I think this makes this strategy very unique and interesting. So what I've done is I've stacked the negative rarity using Venter's Gambles on 2 of my rings. And on top of that, I'm using Ingenuity to make the rarity a lot more negative with an amp, and I get a negative 36 rarity. Of course, the rings can be a lot better. It can be 6% of the implicits and negative 25. But once again, it's not the core of the strategy. It is just a little minor optimization that I've been trying out on my end. So without further ado, let me just show you what you can expect from running with some of these maps and the kind of juice that you can have. So before I enter the map, let me talk about the LS tree really quickly, and where I think it's going to be important is going to be scaling increased effect of modifiers of your maps. It's going to be increasing the modifiers here through things like these. You're going to be scaling the number of rares in your maps. You're going to be scaling the number of magic monsters in your maps and the pack size. On top of that, that's where we're going to be taking things like explicit or wasted modifiers and the pack size here. And this is the keystone that I'm taking that I think it's very potent for the build, for the strategy, and that's going to be increase either prefix effect or suffix effect. So what does this do for the map? So if you're running maps like these, something like what I put in, if you increase either the prefix or suffixes, and if the map does not have increased rarity on it, what it's scaling is going to be one of the 3 things over here, which is waystone drop chance, increase magic monsters, or increase monster pack size. The 4 modifiers that are useful that I forgot to mention that I opened the map with is going to be increased rares, increased magics, pack size. But the most important for me, the minimum that I'm going to be looking for is just like 35 and above pack size for the maps that I'm going to run. And you just buy this off of trade. or you unveil it yourself, and then you do the maps that don't have rarity. It is going to be hard to value your own maps and get those, so personally, buying it off a trade is going to be the best approach. With a 35% pack size search and 0% rarity on the map, you should be able to buy maps between the 15 to 20 exalt range per map. So that is what I wanted to talk about. All right, here we go. So we're going to enter the map, and you can see the first thing is at the top right is going to be a monster level 82 zone. And yeah, we're just going to kill monsters and drop the loot. So currently I'm using the filter that is going to be my own filter that I created for the bases that are worth it. Apologies for the slick map. For the this is a bugged map, but the Herald of Thunder just creates a visual clutter, and it keeps giving epilepsy warnings. But the filter that I'm using is going to be xbo_t16. This is a filter I created for myself. It is public and open to use on my filter page that I'll link in the description below. So I think one of the questions that I've got is that why is Breach the mechanic of choice? Is because it spawns a ton of magic and rare monsters that contribute to dropping a lot of the base drops. So I'm gonna hit the Breach over here and kill the monsters. You can see I dropped the first base over there, the Cannonade Crossbow. I think that's about 10 to 15 exalts for one of those. And that is very widely used for builds like the Tactician. And a lot of the bases that will be showing on the filter are for popular builds of the league. Perfect Jubilar Orb, okay. As you can see, the negative rarity does not significantly impact the currency that we drop. I do kind of see and feel that I do drop a bit lesser currency, but it's not like super major. And I don't think it's extremely impactful for the build. Personally, I just think that as long as you're not running 100% rarity on your character, that it will be fine. We have a Volan Quiver over here, that's a couple of, and as one example, level 20 Uncut Skill Gem, that's 1.3 Divines, and something that you can only drop in higher tier maps with map level scaling. So that's just another example, 1.3 Divines, and that's outside of the bases that you drop. And we want to kill every single monster in the map and open every chest that you kind of meet, because those will have a chance to drop 82 bases and above only in the map, so pretty much everything drops that. This guy's a shield. And I think I may have missed a corner here. I may need to backtrack for that later. So weird looking slick map. That might be a dead end actually on the right side with the rare there. Okay, this map looks kind of weird. Gonna have to backtrack a little bit. Yeah, pretty much just kill the monsters, drop the bases, and yes, pretty much you sell them on the marketplace after. And this league introduced the new merchants tab where it auto sells for you, and that really saves a lot of time. I think previously when you have to sell the bases, when you have to play a strategy that has to sell bases, it is very tiring to have to manually sell them one by one or sell them in bulk for the one person who comes to your hideout. There's going to be a lot of interactions needed, but now with the instant buyout, it is really a huge buff to strategies like these. I think that's a Siren Skill Glove, 5 to 10 exalts for that one. And yeah, pretty much running a build with high amounts of movement speed, or if you're LA, Deadeye with Roa, that's definitely going to be good for the build. Ruby Ring, this is about 5 to 10 exalts, I believe, on a white base. And all of this is because crafting this league has become extremely potent, and getting those 82 bases, especially for things like rings and amulets, means that you can get tier 1 resistances. 81 and above gives you tier 1 chaos res. I just dropped a second my sandals, that is almost 40 exalts for one, in perspective. I think there's a rare here underground. Let me just proc it real quick. And yeah, I will be updating a filter based on that, and that's a Gemini bow base. That is going to be 35 to 40 exalts for that one, as I showed earlier on stream. It does fluctuate a little bit. I'll have to stash my bases. You're gonna have to do that at least 2 to 3 times in the map if you do drop a lot of them and scale your quant. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, there's nothing special to it. Just once you have set everything up, that is the difficult part. The easy part is going to be killing the monsters. And the fun part where you can hear all the things and pick up the items that's worth multiple 2-digit exalts within the map. And outside of the breach that you're scaling, what's going to be also good is going to be the natural monsters that you're going to get in your maps from the Abyss mechanic that's going to be free in every single map. So that's an Ancestral Tiara, another Gemini Bow, and 2 Obliterator Bows. Those are 20 exalts each. Tiara's about almost 40 exalts, 30 to 40. And Gemini's about 40 exalts. And you can see that we're dropping just multiple divines in the map from the free Abyss that we have just done. And just kill the monsters, drop the loot. If you're curious about what build I'm playing, I'll link the PoE Ninja to my build down in the description below. I will do an update of my build guide tomorrow, but I do have some posted from days prior, so you can check those out if you're interested. But we're playing the Galvanic Lightning Crossbow on the Deadeye build. What's new? We've played this for 3 leagues now. Galvanic Wand, that's 12 exalts, 15 monsters remaining. I think we're down to our last pack here. And we are pretty much done. I think this was that one monster? Yeah, it is. Oh my god, cancel my TP. Alright, so that is pretty much the amount that we got. I think that's like, 4 divs, 5 divs if you count from just bases alone, like 4 div, 5 divs. And if you count like the skill gem, there's another 1.3 divs, the perfect jeweler orb, but if we don't count that, that is just some additional currency that you can get from T16 mapping. And of course the Abyss can bring you to things like Abyssal Depths, so you can get more loot, kill the monsters in there, drop more bases. There's a lot of things that can come alongside that, but just the bases alone, you can stand to gain up to a north of 3 divines. And one thing that I want to talk about is going to be the pathing, right? So you're going to ask, like, how do I path to areas with towers? You can just do it the manual way, where you just, do the maps one by one and get there. So you can see that I was here previously and started, and then I saw a corruption zone above me. So imagine that this was unexplored, right? I have a tower here, I see up to here, it's unexplored, but I do see a corruption zone in the fog. So that's where I do the maps, I path over, and then I start seeing the +1 zone that I just did. And then that's where, okay, first thing, I'm gonna look for a tower to juice this up and make it irradiated. And that's where I path around on the outer rim to get to the tower, to do the irradiation, to juice this up. So that is how you would path normally. And there's also second alternatives where you can use the, the Grand Project. So there is the Grand Project Precursor Tablet that allows you to skip over areas. So all maps in range can be accessed. So if you put the Grand Project on this tower, for example, you can immediately do this tower over here without needing to do any maps in between. It does cost about 40 exalts, but it allows you to skip. Let's say if there's a huge river blocking, or if this has completely no access and you can't path over, it allows you to skip over, allowing you to save some time. But if you do have maps in this area that you can run, it means you do sacrifice a bit of quant for the maps that you want to run. Okay? And one thing is that after you have cleared all the maps that are +1 in the area, you cleansed it, you did the +1 maps, you still have maps in the area. Maybe you have 2 towers, maybe you have 3 towers, and then you adjust it with like 30 quant. You can still run these maps in these areas, and they can still drop you i82 bases. How does that happen? So when you run areas without the natural +1 modifier from corrupted zones, you get 1 additional from irradiation, 1 additional from T16s, which means that you're running an I81 zone. When you kill a magic monster, you kill rare monsters, you get bases +1 higher, +2 higher, so you can still drop I82 bases, which are worth a lot of money. And on top of that, you also have the chance to get Abyssal Depths that brings you to a zone level, which is +1 higher to get those bases. So on top of that, if you have juiced those areas with multiple towers, you can still run these areas and get a lot of loot, and it is still going to be profitable running a 15 exalt T16. As long as you drop 1 base, you're super in the green and you're going to be making money. You're going to be dropping level 20 gems, and yeah, this strategy is going to make you quite a lot of money. So some other questions that I get is the filter public? Yes, I talked about that. I'll link that in the sheet below. And I'm starting to track the profit of the bases at the point of recording. So this is what I have over here. I'm starting to record. So I'll record the one that I just did over here, and how much at the point of listing the items, how much that is going to be. So that is what I plan to do in the future. And if you have any questions, just drop it in the comments below, or If you catch me on stream live, you can ask me there as well. If you like the video, feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!